What you're about to see is a bunch of useful information, typically for beginners, cut from a longer video. The original video includes details about setting up the Hampback MK-0 PRO electric drum set. So if you're interested in seeing that kit and seeing more of the setup for the kit, go and check out the full video, hopefully linked in the description below or in the card section up above. If you're here for just the general tips, then let's get into the video. Hello everyone, and today we are going to be unboxing the Hampback MK-0 PRO drum set, and I assume this kit is going to be pretty similar to the MK-0 standard kit. So the main objective of this video is actually just to give you some tips about setting up your drum kit and hopefully making it as easy as possible, and also setting you up for as close to success as possible, at least in terms of if you're planning on eventually moving to a full-size acoustic kit. So I do this in all of my unboxings and reviews, but the first thing that you should also do is inspect how your package arrived to you to make sure that it isn't too awful damaged, and you should take photos as evidence if there is significant damage, and just in case your item is broken. If there is significant damage to the box, there is a chance that your item could still be okay, but obviously there is a chance that it's not. So before I open it, I'm looking at this. This is how it came to me. It didn't come in a outer shell box, but this also came to me directly from Hampback. So thank you to the company for sending me this. I almost forgot to mention that. But however, it does look like this has been taped up a couple times. There are a few major scratches here and there, and this looks like a straight razor gouge from cutting into something else and then cutting into the box. But overall, it doesn't look like any real damage occurred that should affect the drum kit. This box is really nice. It shows exactly what's in it, which actually is bad when they don't have an outer shell box. As you're unpacking, obviously you want to try and sort things if you can. These have names on them, so we're gonna try and sort them properly so they all go together. And you also want to try and locate the instruction manual as soon as possible. At least the build instruction manual, which this looks like it's it, if I remember correctly. And then there's also a separate user manual for the module. I should really close this knife. This is not a good idea. Pro tip: don't sit there with an open knife waving around. Okay. Now sometimes you have to be really careful with the instructions, because sometimes in these user manuals they don't give you a lot of instruction. So you have to really pay attention, especially if they're just pictures. Like for instance, this needs to be flipped around this way to be proper. My grouping is already coming in handy. I'm just going to start by putting this all the way down for now, just to make it more easy for assembly, or easier for assembly. And I believe these should all be the same, but you should definitely check just in case. Some kits include different sizes of pads, but usually not these affordable ones. And sometimes the affordable ones have at least a different snare to allow different things for the snare, but this one does not. They are all the same pads, and they're all interchangeable. And one thing that I really like about these Hampback kits is that they come with this style of drum key. I really like this head, and I really wish that more drum keys were like this. Now when it comes to setting up an affordable kit, it's very easy to just put everything really close together for speed and convenience. However, if you are planning on trying to eventually get a full-sized kit, that is just setting yourself up for failure, because a full-size kit takes up a lot of room, and the drums often have to be very spread out, or pretty spread out, because they're just big. That's just how they are. So usually when you get a rack like this, you want to try and spread it out as much as possible, because the rack doesn't provide a whole lot of room to spread out anyway. And really, if you're using an actual kit, you'd probably have things even more spread out than the maximum on here. I mean, especially this kind, because this kind is pretty compact, but it's also designed for portability. So you can't really have it be big and portable. That's not really how it works. It's one of the most annoying things about trying to be a drummer and actually like practicing in a band and playing. If you don't have a drum kit there, you have to bring the drum kit, and the drum kit is really annoying to transport, obviously. So let's put these cymbals out on the opposite sides farther out. which I assume is what these are for. If I remember correctly, that's what these are for, is to hold the cymbals. And then we'll put the drum pads on the inside. You, of course, don't have to do it this way, but I think it'd probably be awkward if your cymbals were on the if both your cymbals were on the inside. I don't even know if that would work, so yeah, keep that in mind. Now, I can push these drum pads over, however, I do have to be aware of my other drum key heads right here. I hope you can see that, but if I put this drum pad all the way over where I would like it, then it will be covering the drum key heads for the cymbal stand. So you got to be careful about that and find a good healthy medium. But really, when it comes to one of these kits, there's not a whole lot you can do. You want a little bit, at least a little bit of an angle on your toms if that wasn't obvious already. Now here's where this type of drum key can help, except for it still can't because this is just too close. So another solution is that you could set these cymbals stands properly first before you set the drum pad, because then you should be able to scoot them over if you wanted. But then you'd also have an awkward future adjustment as well. So it's all a trade-off, and so I would definitely suggest giving yourself some space to be able to adjust, especially if it is your first kit, so that you can sit there and adjust if needed, because more than likely, to get the proper feel, you're probably gonna have to switch things up a few times. Now, another thing I would like to mention is that it's not impossible to get things close together on an acoustic kit, but there are also ups and downs to that, especially that things move a lot more on an acoustic kit, so you have to worry about things hitting each other. But the other thing that you have to worry about, which probably won't come until much later in your career, is if you have to actually record your drums. Then either you or your sound engineer, whoever, is going to need to set up mics on the drums, and then you also have to worry about the other drums bleeding into other drums, sounds bleeding into different mics, and to, alleviate that, it's best to have things as far away as possible while still being able to perform your song comfortably, of course. That's one of the biggest challenges of a recording engineer and a drummer, is trying to separate the hi-hat and the snare. And I'm gonna put this one pretty far back because it doesn't have a super long pole anyway, but this tom over here would be the floor tom typically, and floor toms are, they're called that for a reason because they're typically very big. For this kit specifically, but maybe yours has something similar, I find it easier to just put the drum sideways and get the top screw started, and obviously you just finger tighten it so that it doesn't fall off, and then you can apply your other screw and finger tighten it, but also make sure to put your drum roughly into position so that you can, you don't have to move it again later, at least until you're actually ready to play, and then properly feel how your kit feels and see if it's proper for you and your playing style. But the floor tom should generally be pretty flat, maybe tilted just a tiny bit, but it's usually a decent bit flatter, or it depends on the drummer. You can tilt them towards yourself a decent bit. But your snare drum should definitely be flat for the logical way that most people play snare. Now, I have not gotten to play a variety of electric drum kits, but this kit I know has a difference between its spokes, or its cymbal stands, and that's because for some reason the hi-hat specifically was designed with a screw-on style cymbal holder, while the other cymbals have a nub style holder, which you have to force the cymbal through. The benefit that I have seen from the nub style is that it possibly prevents over-tightening of the cymbal on the stand and allows for the proper wobble and freedom that a cymbal needs to prevent getting cracks and other deformities and breakages in the center circle of your cymbal. Now, electric cymbals are probably a little bit better about it, but I assume it still can happen, that they can still get cracked in the center holes of the cymbal if you really crank things down and over tighten things and just generally don't treat don't treat the instrument the way it needs to be. Now, something that you usually have to be careful of is the direction of which your cymbal faces. This kit is really nice because it has a complete playable area on the entire top of the cymbal. However, many electric cymbals don't have that, and the way that many of them go is that they actually have like a 40% of the front that's playable, and then the rest of it is like a hard plastic that you definitely do not want to hit. So yeah, make sure that if you are working on a different kit that you be careful and put your cymbals on the proper direction. When you're setting up your cymbals, usually you want a little bit of a tilt towards you, but this kit makes it a little bit more difficult to get that properly, so we'll see how that works. Again, make sure that you close your knife and get the tape off of it if it's stuck on there. Now, another pro tip, throughout your time using this kit, you have to be mindful of this snake. I don't know if you can get replacements of this. You might be able to get replacements of this style, but if you get any more advanced electric kits, sometimes these get more and more proprietary, and if the brand doesn't sell replacements, you better hope that the customer support will give you a replacement one way or another. So of course, the first thing you gotta check is to make sure that you're putting this in the right way. There's only one way it can go in. However, if you try to like shove it in upside down, you can start almost bending pins to get it in just the right spot to go wrong. So you definitely want to not do that. Then there are screws on it, gotta tighten that up. And I don't know about your kit, but mine has little labels on the ends of them, so it tells me where to put them. Now you want to try and untangle these as best as possible so you get the best routing and the most amount of cable possible without simply just getting caught on everything. And for now, I'm going to try and hook things over other things to keep the cords more organized in the beginning. However, this kit does come with zip ties, reusable cord ties. It might even be useful to just get a set of these even if your kit doesn't come with them, because I actually have way more than enough length for this cord right here. And then to alleviate that extra length, what you can do is start to wrap it and coil it around some of the arm and the body of your kit. And that will subdue some of the loose cable. Now, what you also have to be careful of is if this kit is not going to be stationary and you're gonna fold it up, you have to check and see how the cord tolerance is, however the arm moves. So I have plenty of room here and nothing's getting pinched, because if you pinch cords, eventually it could lead to the inside cord actually just breaking without the outside even actually being fully damaged yet. Also, another thing you have to worry about when you're coiling up wires is you just have to make sure that if you end up moving any of your toms or other pieces that connect to the frame, you just gotta make sure that you don't get it pinched up and get it all messed up while you're changing things and moving them around, much like as if you were folding things up. You just gotta be careful for when you're doing that, but that's probably more self-explanatory. These cymbal cables are a lot easier to wrap since you have these cymbal stands to wrap around. The cymbal stands don't typically move very much, though if your kit is more advanced, maybe they do. So again, be careful and don't pinch or really clamp on your cords to mess them up. With some of these wires that go to your actual floor stuff, like your hi-hat pedal and your kick pad, there's only so much organization you can do, especially if you don't know where you're going to be putting them initially, and if they get moved around a lot, there's probably not a point to coiling them up, within reason of course. But yeah, it all depends on your situation, how you want to handle those cords. And I believe this is our final chord, and it is for the ride cymbal, which for those that don't know, this is supposed to be your hi-hat, this is supposed to be your crash, this, depending on how many cymbals your kit comes with, it could be the second crash, or it could be the ride. In our case, this is the ride, and then sometimes your ride is over here. This only supports the 3 cymbals, and that's okay. It'll get the job done for most of the stuff that you need to learn when you're beginning drumming. Okay, so the first thing you gotta do, it's gonna be really hard to see, but on the bottom here, you gotta get the metal lip of this part right here, right there. You gotta get that under the lip of this part right here so that you can clamp it down and they won't separate from each other. So I got it in there now, and I can, there's a little screw that's underneath here on the clamp, underneath the actual pedal, and that should eventually get it so that it will be nice and firm and not be able to move, obviously. Try and ensure that the pedal is as straight with the pad as possible and the unit, you know, that sort of thing. So now we're locked together. The next thing you want to do is get the optimal height and beater placement for your situation. So you make sure that this is loosened up with this little key right here, and then see, this is too high. So you want to try and get it as close to the center as possible. It doesn't have to be exactly in the center, but the closer the better, because that means that you're going to get a more powerful signal sent to the actual module when you want it. And so there it is. Very nice. And then it looks like the spring tension was set fairly decently on this pedal by default, so you don't have to mess with this at all. You can if you want to, but I don't even remember much about adjusting the springs. It's been a long time since I've done it. So yeah, you need a separate video for that if you really, really need it. But I think you should just get used to just using the pedal normally first, assuming that your spring is properly tensioned and gives you a decent bit of spring on the pedal here. So one of the few last things is actually setting up your drum throne. Now this adjustment is going to be the same. Unfortunately, it is a more affordable stool, so you won't get fine-tuned adjustment for the height, but I think that this will get the job done, especially for the price of the kit and it all coming together. So the way that it works is you just put this in, and then there's a little square slot right here that you would put, you gotta line one of these holes up to it. And for me, I'm gonna put it at the highest setting, because the higher you can sit, the better momentum and stuff I think you can get for the kick drum, but that also means that you have to set your drum kit higher. Forgot the washer. Don't forget the washer. I believe that the washer should go on the wing nut side. That's where I'm putting it. Okay, so it's the next day, but we need to finish up actually setting up our kit. So the first thing that we need to do is actually just adjust our stool to the proper height needed. I'm no expert, but as far as I know, what you should be aiming for is to have your legs being straight out from your body when you have them rested on the floor, or probably more accurately, when you rest them on your pedals. So really we get pretty close, but they're just a little sloped down. So that's why this drum stool might be a little inconvenient, because normally, at least with my stool, it had it was threaded on the head, so you could sit there and spin the head and it would slowly lower it down. This one, of course, it has the little peg and nut and wing bolts, so you have to do that every time to adjust it, and you don't have the fine adjustment. It's fairly decent trade-off, especially for getting it with the entire kit. So we're gonna drop this down to the next spoke, the next hole available. Before I tighten it up, let me sit on it and see how it seems, if it's even at the right level. It seems pretty close. My legs do seem flat, and really you don't have to be probably super precise about it. So honestly, let me try the next one down and see how it feels. And this feels a little better to me. Okay, so now let me get the wing nut on there and we can move on. So now our next objective is going to be setting the kit at the right height for us. We're gonna try and put the snare drum in between our legs here. And there isn't much height adjustment, at least until we actually put this drum set up higher. But the general idea of what you want is you want to try and get this snare to be level with the top of your legs. So let's undo both of the little screws down here, and we will try and pull it up. I suggest if you're doing this by yourself, you put your feet on the feet of the stand so that you hold it down while pulling up, because more than likely this set is going to be lighter than the feet. So you're probably just going to pick up the whole stand itself, the whole set itself, while trying to adjust it. So it's going to be kind of difficult, and it could be helpful to have a partner, someone to do this with and assist you to be able to get the actual precise placement correct. Let's try and get a rough estimate of where it should be. I'm going to set it here for now and then tighten up our legs so that it doesn't fall from the position that we've set. Now let me actually get a look at this while not holding the set. So it seems like it might be a little low still. For electric drum kits, you might want to set it just a little bit higher, especially when they are a little more cramped, or can be a little more cramped, like this compact one. Let's lightly undo the clips so that hopefully it doesn't fall down too fast, like that. Oh boy. And my feet are no longer on the feet of the stand, so it's not working. There we go. Okay, let's try right here. Alright, so right here seems about right. It's only just it's pretty much right at the top of my leg. So this is pretty much the exact spot where you want your kit to be. You can also try and move things around a little bit, try and get them to feel a little more natural, though I can understand if you're a beginner player, you don't really know what natural feels like yet. But hopefully as you actually start playing, you should be able to start developing a feel, and don't think that you have to leave everything the way it is. You can change things around at least as much as you can, because on this kit, obviously they don't give you a super lot of options. So now the next thing would be to see and make sure that you have your kit leveled, which mine looks pretty close. It might be a little taller on this side, but it's hard to tell. So then the next things would be to try and get your pedals in the right place to where they feel natural, or at least better. So usually I like to have my bass drum a little bit farther back, since I can't actually move the kick pedal back in this room. We have to pull the kit a little bit farther back, like so. Might have went a little too far back. Okay, that seems about right. And even though you can place the hi-hat controller anywhere, the best practice is to try and keep the hi-hat pedal under the hi-hat at least fairly close. The angle can be changed a bit, because logically, if you have a hi-hat stand, you can change it a little bit, and honestly, you might even be able to push it out a little bit more to the side, because right now it felt really cramped in there. Normally, in my experience with an acoustic set, your hi-hat has to be a lot farther out than it is on this one, at least especially when you get into double bass drum playing, because then your double bass pedal, your second one, gets in the way right in between here. So then you have to push it out a little bit more. So this seems about right to me, right about here. A decent angle, I think, at least. I don't know if this is helping anyone. So now the final step of setting up a kit basically is to get your drumsticks out and just kind of start plinking around, seeing if it feels decent. Hampback include these drumsticks, which are actually 7A drumsticks, and that means that they are a little lighter than the average 5A drumsticks, which is going to be good for if you have a kid that is going to be playing this, but it also, for beginners in general, it can be a little nicer, though they have, obviously, since they're thinner, they have a little less durability and such. That's just how it naturally is. So this hi-hat feels a little too stiff. I should back that off just a tiny bit so it has a little bit of wobble there. And these, they should naturally have wobble due to the nub design they went with. But yeah, that feels like a decent bit of wobble for the hi-hat. So With this kind of kit, like I said, there's not a whole lot of customizability, so there's only so much you can do to make it feel natural and better. And for me, things would need to be pushed out a little bit more, but I just can't do that anymore with this kit. But that's okay, especially if you are a beginner. This will help you at least get started. It gives you the very basics, and if you have things spread out enough like these two, you get that little bit of space right there. That's going to get you a little bit closer to how you would be evolving in your drum playing, especially if you ever get to a full-size acoustic kit eventually, or even a full-sized electric kit that emulates a full-size acoustic kit. But that is all for this video because we're done setting up. Stay tuned for a review of this kit. I should be uploading it hopefully soon, and hopefully this was somewhat helpful to some people. If it was at all helpful or entertaining to you, please leave a like. I don't get to do a lot of drum content on this channel because drum stuff is expensive, but I would hope that you would get subscribed to see when it happens and be around when it happens. Most of the time I get to do guitar related content and 3D printing related content along with whatever I want sometimes. And if watching this video has gotten you interested in this kit specifically, I will have an affiliate link in the description below, which will help me out. It adds no extra cost to you other than just buying the kit, of course. But yeah, it would really help me out, and I'd appreciate if you'd use it. Also become a member of this channel if you like my personality and want to see me do more videos and ensure my future on this platform. But just subscribe to see what's coming next. That's all I have to say for now, so I'm gonna say bye-bye.